I made everyone organizer. Yeah, anyone can record it. Okay. Today we will have a brief discussion or an idea on few topics with starting with OBIEE installation. So
Chanakya, I can't record this session. This is Smita.
Yeah, Smita, I made you organizer, Smita. See, I am able to see a record button in the bottom.
I don't have record button here. Oh, okay.
It is there?
Yeah.
Okay. So we'll start with OBIEE. I'll just discuss how to install OBIEE, then previous versions of OBIEE, and what is OBIEE 11g, and we will see OBIEE 11g architecture. We will see different system components in OBIEE. And we will see the impact, how to start and stop all these services, and what will happen if the services is started and stopped. Okay, so I'll just have a brief idea on all these topics now. So starting with OBIEE installation. So like other softwares, you should there is some basic requirement to install OBIEE on your systems. So minimum RAM it expects is your OBIEE 11g minimum, it expects 4 GB RAM. Okay. Okay, and it should have a DBA system user, okay, to create all the schemas that are required to maintain OBIEE 11g in a database. Okay, so before installing OBIEE 11g, there is something called a repository creation utility, RCU. Here there is a file called rcu.bat. Okay, so when we download software, the software RCU home /bin folder will have this file. Okay, so when you double click on this file, it asks for database server details along with database username and password, who has DBA privileges or admin privileges, so that they can create schemas. Okay, because and the next step in RCU is when you click on next, it asks you for a common password or each and separate password for each schema that you want to create it for your OBIEE 11g. So once you provide the password and click on next, it's all like default things. You need not to give so many details. It's straightforward. So when you click on next, what it does, it creates two schemas with your prefix. You can give any prefix name for your schemas. Like if I say a particular schema as HR, this is my schema name, right? The similar way, you can give any prefix name, appending with the prefix your prefix underscore MDS, comma, your prefix underscore BI platform. These two are the schemas that are created after your RCUs run. So these two schemas contains all the tables that are relevant to your for your OBIEE 11g server to operate smoothly without any issues. Okay, all the metadata, all the information which is required for OBIEE 11g server to run smoothly, all the information will be stored under these tables. Okay, before this concept was not there. This is newly introduced in your OBIEE 11g. Okay, next. So how the history of OBIEE started? So before there was a company called Enquire. Okay, so they started with this BI development, and then Siebel has acquired it. Okay, so after that they called it as Siebel Analytics. So Siebel Analytics also, it's like 7.1. It has many versions like Siebel Analytics 6, Siebel Analytics 7, like that. So after 7, the version is like OBIEE has come up. Oracle has come up with two major OBIEE releases. One is OBIEE 11g, and now currently we have something called OBIEE 11g. So, and the latest version is OBIEE 11.117, and you can go for a latest patch 15.01.20. So there is a patch which got released on Jan 15th this year, 20th Jan this year. So you can go for that patch. So this is the latest version that you can see in your OBIEE. Okay. So once you have your schemas ready, then you can start with your OBIEE 11g installation. There is a standard software which is available in edelivery.oracle.com. Okay, this site will provide you all the softwares. All the softwares are free of cost. If it is for any client, they have to take the license, because without license Oracle will not support if there is any bug or error in your code. So you have to go for licensing. Otherwise, if it is for personal users, there is no need for us to go to any licensing and all. You can install it on your personal computers. And what we suggest is minimum you should be having 8 GB RAM. Otherwise, your system will get stuck. Okay, your system will be hanged. Okay, so make sure that at least if you are trying to install OBIEE on a 4 GB machine, our suggestion will be like, don't do that. Even 4 GB, the whole OBIEE completely occupies it. So the remaining programs, if you want to run, you cannot do that. Okay, so whole system will become very slow after installation. So if it is more than, at least if it is 6 GB and more, you can just go for it. Okay, right. Now, so we'll just see what is how OBIEE architecture has been changed from previous version 10G, and now what are the different components, how they are maintained in your OBIEE 11G. Okay, now coming to OBIEE 11G architecture. So let me show you it in diagram. So before you had something called data sources, then you have something called BI server, you have presentation server, you have application. So this is like I'm just giving you basic idea how your 10G architecture was. This was like OBIEE 10G architecture. You have BA server here. This is an RPD file which it takes use of metadata. This is your BA presentation server. And here you have something called application or UI. UI or client. You can say any web browser. Okay. And this BI server, since OBIEE is a browser-based application, you had something called OC4J, Oracle Container for Java. So without starting OC4J, you cannot start your application. Either OC4J or there is something called Internet Information Service, IIS. Okay, these two are your browsing services. Okay, your if your OBIEE want to work on any of the browsers like Chrome, Internet Explorer or Mozilla, anything, your either IIS or either OC4J should be up and running. Okay, and your application should be configured. Okay, by default we will use OC4J, and along with OC4J there is something called Oracle Application Service, OAS. So this should be up and running for all your components to be working smoothly. Okay, now we'll just see the basic architecture, then we will move on to how 11G architecture is being changed from your 10G architecture. Okay, you had something called data sources. When I say data sources, it may be anything like it is nothing but your data warehouse, or maybe any flat file, or maybe any data source which has some data. Okay, it may be an XML as well, anything like that. Okay, so this is a data warehouse or anything, or flat file or something like this. Okay, and your repository document RPD is nothing but it will have metadata about your data. So metadata means how your tables are present. So it contains metadata. So it contains what are all the tables present, how the joins are being defined. So how to make a query. It helps Oracle BI server, your BI server, to formulate a physical query, send it to database and get the results. So you are not writing any SQL query when you are developing an OBIEE report. It is purely you are developing a join between two tables as a fact and dimension that we discussed. So once you are making a join, your BI server automatically develops a query, sends it to the database, gets the results and displays it for you in the application. And on top of your BI server, you have something called BI presentation server, which is present in between your client and your BI server application. So what does your BI presentation server does? If your BI presentation server is down, your client or your application will not be up and running. Okay, it will be down. You will get something called 500 internal server error. Okay. Now this is pretty straightforward. All these components were either written in C or C++ language before. Okay, and there is some Windows command called services.msc. I think you guys should be knowing it. So once I open this Windows command, what it will open? It will open a services window. So all these services in 10G, what it happens? These are present as 5 different services. Those are called Oracle BI server is one. There are 5 services: Oracle BI presentation services, Oracle BI cluster component, Oracle BI Java host, Oracle BI schedule. Here you have like services. When you open, when you click on Oracle, or if you have something here, this is my local system, I don't have any OBIEE installed here, so I cannot see that here. So this is in 10G. Now even in 11G you cannot see these features. When you open the services window, you will see all these 5 under name. So the name of the services will be whatever I have written here. You can start and stop all these services manually, or else you can automate their starting and stopping up all the services. You can automate. You can even automate it. Okay. Now coming to 11G architecture now. So this is just a basic idea how 10G was, and you really don't care how 10G was because you will be working with 11G and later versions. Okay. So Oracle 11G, how this architecture is been completely changed. So in the same thing, in the same diagram, let me show you how it has changed. Okay, so let me take, there is something called BI domain. So this is called WebLogic domain. This contains so-called Java components, which contains admin console, enterprise manager, and this has few more components called managed server. So this is something called managed server. So that this contains all your security, Office application integration, and so on, etc. Here these are called your system components. You have something called there is something called OPMN, which is called Oracle Process Managed Server, which will control all your system components that you saw now. That is called your Oracle BI server and so on. So we saw all the system components in 10G, right? The same thing will be present in your 11G also. The so-called system components are being even retained in your 11g as well, but with a different concept. Okay, here you have configuration files, which includes your XML files, NQS config.ini, instance config.xml. So it has a lot of configurations files, RPD file. So what are all the config files that you wanted for your OBIEE 11g application to work smoothly? All the things are present here, and here you have something called your data sources. Okay, which may include again DW or flat file or XML or anything. Okay, so this is how your OBIEE 11g architecture has changed. Now your 10g had all this file. Along with this file, you had your configuration files as well and data sources, and you didn't have something called Oracle Process Manager Server (OPMN), and this manager server and your Java components are new. It's a new concept. What your how your WebLogic domain has changed with 11g, because this works with concept of fusion middleware control. So that's why OBIEE 11g. So in future again they want to support cloud and all. So in 11g itself, just now itself, they have come up with all the Java concepts, and they are developing with Java so that they can integrate it with any of the other third-party tools or applications. Okay, before in 10g you don't have so much flexibility, but in 11g you have all these type of features in addition. Okay, now, so what are all the Java components? So why they are called Java components? Because they are developed in Java. Pretty simple. And your system components are still in C and C++ language, which are being retained from your previous version OBIEE 11g. And this will completely control your BI server, presentation services, cluster component. This will completely control your application, whereas your admin console, enterprise manager and security part as manager server, everything, these controls your OBIEE 11g starting up of your servers. Like there will be something called admin server and manager server, and your enterprise manager includes all these system components within it. Okay, so we'll just see how your architecture is being defined with various components using our PPT. Okay. So overview of 11g R1 pills derived from Civil Analytics, second major release of Oracle. So previous version was Oracle 10g, now it is second major release. 11g is the second release for Oracle in BA. And 11g has mostly concentrated on middleware integration and manageability. Okay, so that's the reason they came up with all WebLogic domain concept and WebLogic server. There is no concept of OC4J. Before we discussed that there is something called WebLogic server, right? OC4, Oracle Contractor for Java, like OC4J. Now in 11g, everything is controlled through your WebLogic server only. Okay, there is no concept of OC4J or Oracle application server. No. Oracle Business Intelligence is now more integrated with Oracle Fusion middleware. Oracle WebLogic server replaces your OC4J and OAS. Oracle Business Intelligence 11g installer replaces the installer which was used in previous versions. Okay, so your installation is completely different compared to your 10G. Now, following administration command line utilities are available. So I will show you this WebLogic and OBIEE11g command lines later. You need not to worry about this. And a database repository must be created before your installation that we discussed. There is something called repository creation utility RCU, which should be run before installing your OBIEE11g. Without without creating schemas through your RCU, you cannot install your OBIEE11g application. Okay. Now, enhancements to the BI repository. There are new concepts which came in. Log centralization via weblog viewer. Before it was only through log files directly in folder. Now even you can see it in the application. Sorry, not in the application. In the enterprise manager directly, you can see what are all the error messages you are getting in your application. Okay. So this is your basic architecture. So the same thing what we showed up here, okay, the same thing is being represented here also. So there is something called your BI domain. Your BI domain consists admin console, enterprise manager, and you have something called BI office, BI publisher. These are all third-party tools, and you have your security. And your Oracle BI system components are called are managed by your OPMN, and all the 5 system components which are from your previous versions have been retained. Okay, and configuration log files will still remain the same, and you have your supporting database schema which is called BI platform, as well as you will have data sources to get data from. Okay. Now what are system and Java components? That you know that system components are still written and maintained in C++, whereas Java components are being developed using your J2EE. Okay. And this is a completely new change which came after 10G. Okay. Now, so what is an Oracle Process Manager? You may have first come across Oracle Application Server in 10G, where it was used to start up various application server components like OC4J and all. Okay. Now here, it's since been adopted across the technology stack to start, stop and monitor processes across distributed servers, and it's used in OBIEE11g to do the same for the system components that are like your BI server, presentation, scheduler and cluster controller. So to manage all this, you should have your OPMN up and running. I will show you where OPMN is present, and I will show you how it will affect the starting and stopping up of your services. You can either access OPMN through command line, and otherwise there is a service as well. So in the user interface, there also you can go and start and stop your OPMN components. OPMN is also used in 11G stack to control SBase, Discover and all. This is not actually required. SBase you will not be working with. Okay. So Oracle Enterprise Manager, Fusion Middleware Control, manage system components such as your server, presentation server, starts and stops, configure preferences and defaults, scale out, performance monitoring. There are different types of usages. Okay. Now your WebLogic domain, each OBIEE11g Oracle BI domain contains a single WebLogic domain, contains admin server to start, one manager server. WebLogic domain administers your console, and manager servers can be started manually or through node manager also. Okay, there is something called your node manager service. There also you can start, or else you can even start manually. So I will show you how your manager server is present. Okay, now okay, that's fine. So this is just an idea of your OBIEE11g architecture. There is nothing much here. What are all the components I told you, I will show you in your server how these things are present. So all these components I will be showing you now. Okay. So we will see. So what we will see? We will see where admin server is present. First we will see what is console and what is the enterprise manager. So you have 2 URLs to log in with your application. One is console, one is enterprise manager to manage your application, and one more is something called application URL where you directly log in and start working. Okay. So your console will contain your admin server as well as your managed server, right? And also it contains all your security configuration. So users, groups, and every information is being present in your console. Now you have something called Enterprise Manager. So Enterprise Manager is completely used to manage your application. This has all your system components, all the 5 system components, and there are different types of tabs like deployment, capacity management. So all this, what does this do? Your deployment, you can deploy your RPD and web catalog. So what is RPD and webcat? RPD is nothing but repository document which contains metadata about all your data warehouse tables. So what are all the tables, what is the join between them, everything. And your RPD is very important in formulating a physical query automatically by your BI server. Your BI server automatically makes a query on top of a data warehouse, gets the results from it. And what is your web catalog? Web catalog is a folder structure here, like your normal Windows folder. There is something called webcat. So webcat is not like a dot extension or anything. So your folder is called web catalog, where you store all your objects, all your application related objects like a report, dashboard prompt, everything will be stored in your web catalog. Okay, whatever user sees will be stored in your web catalog. Okay, we will see that one also. Next, what else is missing? We see console, and we will log into application once. We will see how application is being affected when we start various system components. Okay, so this is very basic, very simple. So you don't know anything about OBIEE 11g. Now we will just see how OBIEE 11g is being used and how it is present. Okay. Now for our practice, we have I have one server. Even you will be given, I think already you guys are provided with all the VM details. So let me log into 171.
Chanika, your system charging is getting over, I think so.
No, charging is fine. No, my system, my keyboard is not functioning. Just a second, guys. I'll call my. Even last time on the button. बटन ले जाए Guys, let me restart my system. Please you reconnect once again, okay? Just I'll be starting the session in another 4 to 5 minutes. I'll restart my box. Just restart yourself, okay? Sorry man, sorry for the disturbance. We will see all these things again now itself.